Good morning. I want to welcome you to Pulaski County Fiscal Court. As is customary, we'd like to open our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. And this morning I've asked Jason Hancock if he would be so kind as to lead us in the pledge. If you'd all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jason. Go ahead and call this meeting to order then. First item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our previous meeting. You all have received a copy of those. What would be your pleasure regarding the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second. A motion by Ranshaw and a second by Strunk. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have no old business at this time to discuss. We do have a few items under new business that are not on your agenda, but we'll work through those. First, we have let me go ahead and invite our guest up to give a short presentation. We have today Chris Girdler from SPEDA and his guest Jim Parsons with KMK. And they're going to talk to us about the recent TIF project that the city of Somerset has created and has asked the county to consider being a part of. And I will just say to my court here, we do have several issues that we need to deal with regarding our occupational taxes and some of our departments that require shared funding between us and the city, and also our EMS services, our fire services. So we have several things that we need to be discussing, but this TIF is definitely one thing they're wanting us to consider. So I anticipate that we'll be getting together pretty soon as a court and a council to discuss some of our financial needs on both sides. But gentlemen, I'll yield the floor to you if you'd like to further introduce Mr. Parsons.
Thank you, Judge. Is it okay to take this off while I'm speaking, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Judge, members of the court, thank you as always for your service to Pulaski County. Thank you for allowing me to present to you this morning on a project that I believe will have a tremendously positive impact on our community long-term and entice further development, future development, in particular around the Center for Rural Development, Somerset Community College, as well as coming into the downtown community from that particular corridor. I do have just a few short remarks, and I promise to do my absolute best to keep them at that, very short. But as Judge Kelly referenced, I do have a dear friend and somebody who's been a great help to this community, and I've known for quite some time, Mr. Jim Parsons. From the law firm Keating, Muthing, and Clecamp, better known as KMK, up around the northern Kentucky area. But Jim is a very experienced lawyer in many different aspects, but quite frankly, TIF is one of his specialties that he's known for, and he is known kind of as the tax increment financing expert throughout the Commonwealth. Let me first and foremost say that my thoughts and prayers are with Mr. Jimmy Wilden. I know that you all join me in that. Jimmy is such a dear friend to many of us and has served this community in so many different ways for many decades. So just want to make note of that as well. But I want to thank Judge Kelly and you all as members of the court as a whole for recognizing that the economic development efforts in our community for some time had not been working. I want to thank you all for leading the charge to create change, to create SPEDA. And I want to tell you how grateful I am for your support in leading that organization. Y'all have probably heard me say many times before, there literally is nowhere else in this world that I would rather live, work, play, nor raise my family than here in Somerset, Pulaski County, Kentucky. And just very, very grateful for your all support and looking forward to continuing to work with you guys. Speaking of SPEDA, as you all know, we don't want to leave any stone unturned. We do not want to leave any tool in the economic development toolbox unused. And we are working diligently on many fronts to promote, grow, and create more ways in which we can see our community thrive. The results that we have achieved in the past 2 years, I believe, are testament that our model is working. When we came into existence, some of the core values that we established were words like bold, innovative, and growth-oriented. And that is what we are proposing to you today, a bold and innovative way to promote growth in Somerset, Pulaski County. To be the best, we have to be bold in our approach. And to lead, we have to create change. And that's what you all have been doing for some time in the creation of SPEDA and your support of the endeavors that we are pursuing. But please allow me to be very clear on this. We are definitely not trying to force anything on anyone. I want you to know that I come here as a teammate. We are a team, and I'm honored to be a teammate of yours, and I'm simply notifying you of and providing information on an option that we believe will be very helpful in doing all the above things that I have mentioned. We're just asking for your help in giving us this tool as an economic development entity, a tool that does not cost anything to be able to pursue various forms of economic development. And one such tool that we as a community have really not utilized effectively is that of tax increment financing, or again, as it is commonly referred to as TIF. We briefly discussed this possibility in the summer of last year, and I'm grateful to be able to bring it to you again today. I gave out some packets that you all will see in front of you. And one of them that I wanted to direct your attention to is an article. It says TIF Projects Top $10 Billion. And I wanted you all to have that, just demonstrating that there are over 35 TIF projects, which it's more than that now since this article was published, but 35 TIF projects taking place in Kentucky, representing over $10 billion in investments being made. And if our community is going to be able to continue to provide options for our citizens, attract more good dining and shopping options, create more good paying jobs, enhance our educational opportunities, and do what is SPEDA's number one goal, which is improving the overall quality of life, then we must look at options such as TIF in order to allow us to be competitive. But this is another thing I want to be extremely clear on as well. A TIF district does not raise taxes. A TIF district does not raise taxes. What we're looking to establish here does not raise taxes of any shape or any form. The city, the county, and the community as a whole is not giving up anything that it currently has. You're not losing anything, and it does not cost anything. Again, you're not risking anything, nor are you pledging anything that you currently have. Also, I want to make note that a TIF district does not create any restrictions on property whatsoever, and it does not create any tax exemptions. Now, if you will look in your packet again, and I do have quite a few visuals I brought because I'm a visual person, it really helps me in understanding things, but if you will look in the packet, you will find a graph that will demonstrate kind of how a TIF district works. Now, this particular graph is not adherent to what we are proposing. Obviously, you can see this says 23 years, we're looking at 20. But what this helps in demonstrating is that a TIF establishes the property value that a property is currently set at. And it is simply a way to capture the incremental increase in taxes that's created by a new development. It is captured after those taxes are paid, and then a portion of those taxes are used to promote development within the TIF district itself. You have to be in the TIF district in which to be able to use those funds. Those funds can be used for public infrastructure, everything from water, gas, sewer, streetscape, road work, et cetera, et cetera. One other thing I want to make note of, Judge, if it's okay, is that we will be establishing an incentive review committee. And what that is, you establish that, and a representative from every taxing authority will sit on the committee, and then that committee will determine how the captured revenues are employed to foster development within the designated areas. Pulaski County Fiscal Court, if you all choose to pursue and be a part of this TIF district, you all determine the percentage that you all participate on behalf of the county. Now, you might ask the question, why should we participate with the city and or the library board in setting up a TIF? And I would respectfully suggest that that's what communities do when they are serious about economic development. And really suggest as well that that's the best way to be able to move a community forward together, because if there is not a collaborative effort, then we are, as a community, will not be as effective competing with other communities that have that collaborative effort, everybody working together. We are here this morning to present two separate TIF districts for your consideration. But before briefly talking about those and being available for any questions, I would like to ask also another visual, if you could look at in your particular packets here. This is a countywide map of Pulaski County, and you'll see the little green shaded portion demonstrates literally, it's a great visual, literally how small these districts are in comparison to the rest of our community overall. Actually, in fact, the two biggest green portions that you'll see represented there, part of that is owned by the airport, which is basically you all, and the other big portion is owned by Somerset Community College. So really two governmental entities are representing the biggest portion of the green that you see. But the first TIF district, and you've got the big maps in front of you there, one of them's labeled Downtown Prosperity TIF. And we all know that the heartbeat of any community is a thriving downtown area. Somerset Pulaski County, thanks to your all's leadership, has seen more economic development growth in the past 2 years than we had seen in the previous 10 combined. And without question, our downtown community is also thriving as a part of that. This particular Downtown Prosperity TIF is aimed at re-energizing and reinvigorating an area that can be considered, quote unquote, a blighted area. This area encompasses, as you see on that map, coming from South Main Street, the old Monticello area, from where the old refinery property is, all the way into town, which is a heavily traveled area. It leads to the southwest side of Fountain Square, along with many other opportunities for redevelopment along that corridor. The second TIF district to present to you this morning, we have referred to and entitled it the Education and Convention Center TIF. We have an amazing conference and convention center in the Center for Rural Development, along with an incredible college campus at Somerset Community College. Having had the privilege of actually stepping foot on all 16 community colleges throughout Kentucky, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, we have a jewel in the crown of Somerset Community College. It's the most beautiful and well-situated campus in the KCTCS system. But we would like to see our community do everything it can to further entice future development around those institutions to help them succeed and grow. As you can see also, these TIF districts basically surround both of those locations. That will be able to help them be better utilized to make the experience for our citizens, our tourists, our students, attendees at conferences, etc., have more dining, shopping, lodging, and residential housing options available. You know, when one attends a conference or a convention, a lot of times you really are hoping to be able to park your car and not have to use it again for the next day or two. So we're trying to really help in the walkability aspect of that as well. These TIF districts also go hand in hand with the record-breaking TAP grant that the city of Somerset received. It's a phenomenal sidewalk project that will connect downtown all the way down Old Monticello Street, all the way to the community college campus, and then wrap back around by where the Chick-fil-A is, connecting over to Highway 27. These two projects, as I said, are going to coincide to increase development, improve walkability, improve employability, pedestrian safety, health and wellness, and again, kind of that overall quality of life umbrella that we're always chasing. And one other item I wanted to make mention of that you'll see in the blue shaded area is how on that the Education and Convention Center TIF, how it wraps around the airport. Lake Cumberland Regional Airport is a tremendous asset for our community, especially in the economic development world. It is one that we utilize consistently and regularly, picking up potential clients, current clients, one that the business community uses on a regular basis as well. We envision and hope for a day when we might have to look at extending the runway. It's currently 8,000 feet. We would love to see it grow one day. You can see how it wraps around by the terminal. We would love to see a day when we can increase the industrial park area there and possibly create an air park, possibly be able to build on our aviation aircraft mechanics school, which is nationally renowned at Somerset Community College, where we can attract jobs that will be located at the airport for those students who are now graduating from the aviation aircraft mechanics school. A lot of different intertwined projects taking place within these two TIF projects, but those are just a few I wanted to make mention of. They really are quite simple in nature. However, they can definitely be very complex at the same time. And I won't sit here and say that it didn't take me quite a while to gain a full understanding of what a TIF district is. It's something that I had been hearing about, reading about for well over a decade. But there's a reason that Jim Parsons is here, because he is truly the TIF expert. And I want to make sure that you don't have any questions. But as the judge referenced early on, the city of Somerset has passed an ordinance already approving the TIF district on their behalf. And we are just very respectfully asking for your all's consideration in doing the same. I mentioned this earlier, but in all sincerity, it is a very common theme that I hear everywhere I go of how wonderful it is to see city and county governments working together. I think that's one of the secret sauces behind our community's success over the last couple of years, and I just want to thank you again for your all's collaboration. Again, happy to answer any questions. This definitely has an opportunity to lead to some big things in the world of economic development going forward. But I will not belabor any more of your time. Judge, members of the court, thank you. And again, I've got Mr. Parsons here to answer any questions that you all might have that I may potentially not be able to answer.
Is he going to give a presentation on, can he speak a little bit about
absolutely.
the TIF?
Absolutely. Please. Go ahead, Jim.
I'm actually glad to be here, Magistrate. I'm just, because where I'm from, there was 10 inches of snow last night, so I missed it by coming down last night. I'm Jim Parsons with the law firm McKeedy, Muth and Kleekamp, and I want to, first of all, I want to thank you for your service. One thing about me, I do a lot of TIF work across the state, represent a lot of times developers, a lot of times local governments. I represent, for instance, the Moorhead with their downtown work and their TIF districts. I do work for the Lexington Fayette Urban County government. I'm their TIF consultant. I've done work for the University of Louisville. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that here. I don't know if you're, but then prior to that, for your information, I had a 31-year career in local government. And my last job actually was Gary Moore's deputy county judge and county administrator in Boone County until I retired from public service. So I have a pretty good background in public finance, but I also understand the issues you face on a day-to-day basis of being in county government. In this particular situation, the city of Somerset has created the two different TIF districts. One is called a local development area. That's what's known as the Education and Convention Center local development area, and they also then have created the Downtown Prosperity development area. There are two different types of TIF districts. The one, since it's in a downtown setting, that basically is for the development of previously developed property. And in that one, there was a process where they had to the city found that the area met at least 2 of 7 factors of blight, and there's a requirement in the statute for those type of TIF districts. The benefit of that type of TIF district is that if you have a project within the TIF district that might happen, and meets certain criteria, then there's a potential of the city then applying to the state for a pledge of state sales taxes and income taxes and some of the state increment. And some of the larger TIF incentive awards you might have heard about are those projects that then can later go to the state and get a pledge of state TIF revenues. So the development area TIF district, the Downtown Prosperity TIF district, would qualify for that type of pledge. The other TIF district is for undeveloped land. And so, and again, that type of TIF district will not qualify for a pledge of state tax revenues. So as a result of that, it's really important as much as possible for the local taxing districts who are willing to participate to do so, to actually create a bigger pool of available resources. In this particular situation, as Chris indicated, a TIF district does not affect any current revenues. When the TIF district is created, there's a baseline established, and any taxing district that participates, their revenues are baselined. And so the increment we're talking about is anything over and above that baseline after the TIF district is activated. And so what we would do under the documents, the city, whoever participates, would certify that baseline. In this case, since the TIF district was established in 2019, at the end of the year, 2020, excuse me, the baseline tax year is 2019. And so we've actually, in our documents, have a list of all the parcel IDs that would be within that TIF district, but then as part of the implementation, the the city and county working together, whoever participates would actually work to certify that base to be sure it's accurate in that circumstance. The other thing is, just for informational purposes, the only taxing districts that may participate are a city, county, special districts, but not, the school district cannot participate at all. And I don't think there's a fire district here, but fire districts by statute may not participate. So this will have no impact on those taxing districts at all. In fact, they would get the full amount of taxes the area would generate. Each taxing district, if they elect to participate, would have to affirmatively vote. So in this case, the city created the TIF district, the city adopted a local participation agreement or a local development area agreement for the other TIF district. And if the county elected to participate, it would have to affirmatively adopt an ordinance agreeing to participate. At this particular point, the city's participation is 75% of its incremental taxes within the TIF district for a 20-year period. As Chris indicated, the county could elect to participate at the same level, but you would not. It's not required that every taxing district that participates at exactly the same level. There's a lot of times, especially special districts, if they elect to participate, they don't have the same view of economic development, or their role, maybe they look at their role a little different. And so a lot of times, especially special districts might participate at a lower percentage. But I have had examples that where special districts have participated in TIF districts. Again, a TIF district can only be created by a city or a county, or a city and county working together. And so in this case, the city has created the TIF district. And again, as Chris indicated, the local participation agreements or the pledge agreements at present do not include the reference to the incentive review committee, but there's a placeholder in the documents for other taxing districts that might agree to participate. And if the county does participate and or the library, we would add that in to make it clear that the incentive review committee is established. And basically any taxing district that agrees to participate would have a representation on that committee so that they would have a role in determining how the incremental revenues are going to be used. Again, as Chris indicated, the taxing, this is not a zoning document. It is not a restriction on property. It has nothing to do with that at all. It simply allows the incremental increase in taxes that are generated over time to be captured in a portion of those used to promote development. Again, the purpose of both TIF districts they're written fairly flexibly to allow the increment to be used to promote direct projects within the TIF district and or infrastructure improvements that might be needed within each area. There's also a carve out. The city's pledge includes a pledge of its occupational taxes and payroll taxes. So there's a carve out in that particular provision that in the event that a portion of their payroll tax that would otherwise be pledged to the TIF district would be needed to support another state incentive, because there's a state incentive called Kentucky Business Investment Program. So there's a carve out for that. So what we don't want to do is create a TIF district and then have the end user company that might need an incentive not be eligible for that. So we've taken provisions to deal with that.
That was one of the questions I had. How would it affect occupational tax?
Right now, the city, at this point, the city's pledge includes real estate taxes and its occupational taxes. The pledge from the county would be up to you. Right now, the ordinance I drafted only includes real estate taxes from the county. But if you have an occupational tax and decided you wanted to participate fully like the county has, then you could include that if you chose to do so. But that's really up to the fiscal court relative how you would do that. The draft ordinance I sent to the county attorney did not include a pledge of county occupational taxes.
Can that percentage of investment change? This is a 20-year agreement. Can that percentage change based on, like, if we do something like 75%, but 10 years down the road, we figure out that we need more revenue? Can that investment change?
It can, but only if you approve it. You
Only-
have to affirm
We
it.
just have to do it
That's
here,
right.
here at the physical
That is
court.
correct. If you, so the percentage you pledge can be changed, but it would have to be an affirmative vote. That would be your decision. It cannot be, the way these TIF districts, some states are different, but in Kentucky, it's real clear that the individual taxing district has to affirmatively vote and determine what their pledge is. And so if you choose later, maybe the city, county working together saying we need more of an incentive, you know, we want to adjust the percentages, you would have to affirmatively agree to do that.
On,
Can you discuss the distribution of the revenue that's generated?
Yeah, yeah. What happens on a TIF district is once the TIF district is what we call activated, you create the TIF district, and you actually have up to 4 years after it's created to activate it. But after the TIF district is actually activated, at the end of each year, after that period of time, for the term of the TIF, the revenues are collected like a taxpayer themselves would not know that they're even in a TIF district. They would pay taxes exactly like they're paying them now. County tax, real estate taxes would go to the sheriff, and then distributed out to the regular taxing districts. But after you receive those taxes, then whatever percentage you've agreed to participate would be submitted over to the agency that's been created by the city. And that agency would hold those revenues, and then ultimately, as projects would be determined by the Incentive Review Committee and others, they would basically make a decision how those revenues are spent. So as a project would come up, if that particular project needed an incentive, or if the group decided that there's some specific infrastructure improvement that might be needed within the district that might make it more available for development, then those decisions will be made at that time.
couple other questions I
Yes.
had.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I know Ross wants to.
I just know that some of the questions I've had from people is, okay, if the county contributes, I'll just put it in layman's terms, get away from us lawyer terminology, but if the county contributes money, who controls, is there a committee, is there an entity or a group that's formed to distribute these dollars? Who makes up that entity, and how does that entity decide how to spend the money?
Yeah.
Those are the questions I've been asking.
Yeah, actually, the documents, the agreements I sent you, I believe, do not include the reference to that incentive committee, because at that time, there was no other taxing district that was participating. But we would anticipate that there would be a definite committee established of representatives from the county, and the county would appoint whoever to that. The city would have representation. If the library district agreed to participate, the reason we're mentioning the library is they have at least participated in some of the discussions relative to that. But if they elected, that committee would actually review and make recommendations ultimately to the city, because the city created the district, and then that entity would then enter into, that would be the entity that would approve the distribution of funds.
So the money would be given to the city who manages it,
That
right?
is
The
correct.
county money would be given to the city.
That's right.
And they would manage the money.
That's correct.
And then there'd be a committee set up. What percentage of representative would the county have on this committee?
That would be, what I would suggest, if you're interested, those issues could be worked out with the city of how that would be structured.
Okay.
It could be done different ways. There's no formula for necessarily doing that, but relative to that. But
And you're saying we don't have to, on the breakdowns, I don't have an assumption of what the mayor wants us to the percentage to be. I'm assuming he would like us to do 75% because that's what they're doing. But what all taxes that come into the county revenue tax base stays the same. I understand that. I've been doing a lot of research on this. And it's only the difference in base. A couple questions I have. Does the TIF district increase the property value of the residents in that district to where they end up paying more property tax over time. Because these areas are low-income areas. You got senior citizens living in these areas and stuff like that that own houses in this area. So as this area develops, would that increase the property taxes of the individual residents?
On the
'Cause
one
I'm
district.
I'm worried about these senior citizens that are fixed income.
On the local development area, the one that was for undeveloped land, shouldn't be any people living there, or it'd be very minimal in that circumstance. On the other area, I think in both situations, it would be inappropriate for me to say that if development occurs, it's going to have impact on assessments and things. So in that circumstance, yes, but in the downtown prosperity TIF district, the whole purpose of that is to redevelop that for new development. And so I think it will have some minimal impact on that, but it will probably affect assessments. Otherwise, you don't want development, because if you
So there would be an increase on property.
it's possible. I'm not
Over
an
time.
assessor, but I'm saying it is probably fair to say that if you have a new development in an area, it's going to have some impact on assessments. Now, if you're elderly or disabled, you still get the benefit of your homestead exemption. So that's not going to affect that. But and the other side of the coin is some of these people, and especially in the downtown prosperity area that's set for redevelopment, new development might allow them to have, if they choose to sell property, they might get a benefit from that situation.
Is there any TIF district around the state that has not worked?
The ones that have, there's been a few TIF districts that have been created where they haven't, early on, where they didn't produce the revenue that they anticipated relative to that. But I think all of them, and so in those, it is a potential that if the project doesn't work, or if it isn't working, there is a provision for terminating the TIF district. There had been some projects in Louisville, for instance. In particular, the university, the U of L arena project, that did not produce the revenue that was anticipated at the front end, but they made adjustments actually to that, and now it's producing the revenue to support debt. The other side of the coin is when you do these things, I think the biggest issue from this, that the incentive committee and the city and county, is to be very kind of conservative about what you're pledging. So, instead of what area where they might have got in some issues is they've issued debt based upon speculative revenue stream, and I would not recommend the city do that.
I want to follow up, if I may, on Mark's question about the revenue. And if it doesn't increase the value of the property owners, if I own a home or a building in this prosperity district, and it doesn't increase my property value, then there's no money to go to the TIF, correct?
That is correct.
So there has to be an increase in property values within the TIF district for the whole TIF to work.
That's correct. And I assume what he was referring to is those individuals that might be in the TIF district, but they may not be part of the actual development.
That's exactly what he was referring to.
And so
is
there
that
could
you've
be
got- You've got homeowners whose tax liability, property tax liability, if the TIF works, their property value should go up, which means they would owe more real estate taxes than they owe today. And that increase, if their taxes go from $100 a year to $200 a year, and we did the same thing the city did and pledged 75%, then $75 of that $100 increase would go to the city for the TIF, and then the county would keep $125. So the county would reap some benefits from the increase as well as money that went to the TIF.
That is correct. In addition to that, there are other taxes you would keep. It doesn't affect insurance premium taxes. If you have that, it does not affect tangible taxes. So especially the commercial projects that are generating more tangible assessment, all that would be a benefit. You get 100% of those revenues.
One of my concerns on the homeowners and stuff in these districts is you have, take a senior citizen, yeah, the property taxes value may go up, they're gonna end up paying an increase in their property tax themselves and they won't reap the benefits until that property's sold of the increase in value of their homes. But in the meantime, you got senior citizens, you got low-income people that may not be able to handle the increase in their own property taxes. And that's a concern because, I mean, of course, they don't have a choice. If we do this, it is what it is. They don't get a say. They can't opt out of the TIF district or anything like that. These TIF districts are set, right? You can't, nobody can opt out of them. They are set, no business can opt out, no nothing.
Here's what we're dealing with now. They've already created the TIF district.
Right.
So it's not us creating something that's making a burden for people. We're just deciding, are we gonna give a percentage
Right.
or not? But it's already created, so it's not even something we consider.
If I may add to that, Judge, I appreciate that comment. You know, us as an economic development authority, we're in the business to create development. We want to see property values rise. We want to see the property values of this entire community go up. I mean, that's something that, you know, respectfully, we will never apologize for because we want to bring more development into this community, and with that development will come more jobs, more educational opportunities, more workforce development opportunities. And I wanted to make, I know where you're coming from, Mark, and I respect that.
Can the TIF also subsidize those property owners that can't afford to pay their increase in property values?
I can't answer that question, but again, there will be an incentive review committee that the county will have personnel on making the decisions as to how this money that the TIF collects will be able to distribute that and as to what projects and public infrastructure it'll be used for.
Say the downtown area where there's some prosperity, if there's a poor, if that, I think the plan for that is more substantial redevelopment of that. But if a portion of that is going to stay, for instance, residential, the TIF could be utilized as grants for, it couldn't subsidize the taxes necessarily, I don't believe, but if there was some grants or improvements or facade programs or things like that, as grants back to them to make improvements to their properties, that could be done with that there. That's, you know, so you can use it pretty creatively in those revenues. So if there is a need to do something like that, I don't think subsidizing the taxes would be a good reason, because the whole purpose is to capture those new taxes. But if there is a project that within the TIF district that would allow those areas to be better sustained, or that can be done. In fact, some downtown TIF districts we've done, like in Winchester and other places, a lot of those incentives are being used as direct incentives back to the business owner to do facade programs, streetscape improvements, and things like that in front of their properties to make them better, more attractive for customers.
Okay, with the TIF district, the city can take out bonds for infrastructure. We're committed to a 20-year, it's a 20-year commitment.
Yeah.
What happens if the city takes out bonds and not enough money is generated to cover those bonds? Is the county responsible or just the city?
Probably neither in that case, because the increment bonds can be issued with simply a bare pledge of the revenue. So in that case, the city, unless it pledged its general fund, which it will not in this case, but the risk at that point is on the bondholder and not the city or the county. The TIF districts and the documents are really clear that any debt issued by the city are not a debt of the city and is not a risk in that situation.
So if the city takes out bonds to do the development, the utilities and all that, and they've been paying those bonds with TIF money. And if there's not enough TIF money to cover the bond, who's responsible for that bond? Because usually when you take out a bond, a government entity takes out a bond, the end user, which is the county, still responsible for any losses on that.
The county would only be responsible if you pledge that as part of your GO obligation. If you've only pledged in this case, the city would be issuing any debt, so the county would have no obligation. But you can issue, cities and counties may issue special obligation revenue bonds that you're only pledging that particular source of revenue, and you're not pledging anything else. And if those, you know, so in that case, if for some reason the TIF increment was not enough, ultimately the bondholders are really the more at risk in that situation, and they weigh that risk when they're determining whether they're going to buy those bonds. I mean, they usually, with bonds with only a TIF pledge and nothing else, will bear a higher interest rate. And so in that regard, you can do that. When you issue industrial revenue bonds, if you do that for private projects, you're simply a conduit issuer for those, and you're not responsible at all for that debt. And so that can be done. And in this case, the city doesn't even have to issue bonds. The city, there's another provision they can use. They can actually use the increment as it's generated on an annual basis. Normally, when you would go to if you decide to issue bonds, then you would actually have to do, the city would have to do some type of better study to determine how reliable that revenue source is, and that would have to be part of the bond offering documents and things like that. In the case that tool was even used, it doesn't have to be used.
Now, I'm sorry, I'm loading you on questions
fine.
here, but so the money can be decided to be used to grant towards the developer, right? It's just not for
That is
city,
correct.
county infrastructure. You're saying that the money can actually be just given to a developer.
It can be
The tax.
as an incentive back for their particular project. So it doesn't have to be just used for infrastructure improvements.
Okay, and that's kind of, and we talked, Chris, and all that. And what I'm worried about, and me and Steve's talked too, about the revenue sources for the county that we gotta get straightened out. But I'm kind of worried, we're making a 20-year commitment without having, we have our own issues like our road issues and stuff like that, where we need to work out. What happens if we decide in the long run that we can't provide anything to the TIF district?
In that case, you would be in default of your agreement.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
not talking. I'm talking at the beginning.
What-
We're going through all this revenue issues and stuff like that, trying to figure out how we can maintain our roads and how we can maintain other services in our county. How can what if we decided that this isn't right for the county, that we can't afford to give additional money to the city?
That's really your decision. I mean, the TIF
So the
district's
TIF
created.
the TIF still goes on.
TIF still goes on, it simply will not be as effective. It would not be as effective tool because these things work better because, quite frankly, taxes are low at the local level. And even the city pledge of 75%, their tax rate, real estate and occupational tax rate, is pretty low in comparison to other areas. So unless you get a good number of groups working together, so that pool is larger, it could still work, but it's not gonna be as effective tool to move forward.
Well, the county has very limited revenue sources, unlike the city.
Yeah.
They have other ways to create revenue. We only have a handful of ways we can make revenue.
Yeah.
And that
I
is,
would actually suggest, sorry to interrupt, that this is a way to create revenue for the county.
In the
To
long
really
run.
Dangle that carrot, entice development. This is a revenue raiser for the county that otherwise the county may not have or may not be able to experience.
Yeah, if you don't think it's gonna produce more revenue than you're getting now, it probably isn't a good deal. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but the whole concept here is that you're trying to create these tools as a way to entice more development, and that will create more taxes.
Okay, I
In
have
this
a
case,
question.
so, yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that it will, that our taxes, that we have a low tax base, which we do, and we're very proud of that. And the city has even a lower property tax base than I think we do, if I'm correct. Now, it would seem to me, have you done any studies as to from what they have pledged, they will create from their 75% obligation?
I have not done that for here. And part of that is because this is more of we don't have any specific projects that we can model to indicate what that revenue source can be. For instance, the undeveloped TIF is to have a tool there in place so that as development comes in, you could actually work with that particular developer to make that project work, or provide possibly some of the incentive that might be needed. If you had a specific project in mind, where you actually, sometimes when you create a TIF district, you're doing it for a very specific project. And you know exactly what the project is,
Correct.
you can model it and things like that. There you could actually get a good estimate of what the revenue is going to be, what the future revenue is going to be. Here, we don't really have that in place.
Okay, now, another question would be, with our taxes at this low level and a new industrial opportunity or economic opportunity comes along that needs said funding, it would seem to me with our tax bases both so low, and whatever because I know, every penny, of course, right now that you have is obligated. If you're subsidizing the TIF, however you want to put it, I can't come up with the word. But it would seem to me that at some point for this to grow, not just with economic development, it would almost have to raise taxes. What does that have, in other models that you've seen, have they had to raise taxes to help this work?
I haven't seen any TIF district that's been created where they've had to raise taxes there as a result of the TIF. So that's never even been on the table in that circumstance at the front end.
Okay.
So,
Okay, because I was looking through your material, which was very informative, the different things that you had looked at were like Moorhead, Lexington, Louisville, Newport. Those are very rich areas, and we're not.
I think they may disagree with you on that. I was a city manager in Newport, and it was tough to get all that development. The city took a lot of risk to make the levee and all that work.
Mm-hmm.
But what they did is they worked effectively with the county and the city working together, and it took years and years and years. But that's how they've done that. Moorhead and their county government is working directly together. They formed two different TIF districts, one for their downtown, one recently for a new project where they're specifically working together. The problem you run into is that there are very few tools available in Kentucky to promote development. There really isn't.
Exactly.
I think, especially at the state level, there's very little available. Most of the state incentives that are available for development are for the end user. If you're a company and you want to come into the community, the state can give you an incentive for that.
Correct.
But if you're a developer who wants to build a project and then have that available for a project, there's not much at the state level available at all. So what's happening is that local governments then are really having to work together to, quite frankly, solve some of their problems. Because if they don't do that, then they're just not going to be as effective getting things done.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
And I'll use Demetrius as an example. We've got a gentleman who owns a building downtown here, and he's got a lot of diverse business interests. And that's kind of his corporate headquarters. If he decided to go out in the county somewhere and outside of the proposed TIF district and build something, could the fact that his corporate headquarters are located within the TIF district, could money from the TIF be used for property outside?
No,
the
it cannot
TIF
be.
district?
The money has to be used within the TIF district in that circumstance. Because the older statute allowed some indirect things, but no, that could not happen in that circumstance. Again, the monies must be spent within the TIF district. You can use it for a number of things. You can do direct development. You could use it for incentives. One example, the one project that I worked on for a private developer was the ARC Encounter project. That's an example project in Grant County in Williamstown. in an area that the property was zoned agricultural, so it had almost no value. You probably know, if you have an agricultural value, how low that is oftentimes. And so basically, in that circumstance, the city and county worked together, and they basically pledged tax revenue to Ark Encounter, and then annually Ark Encounter gets a reimbursement back of a portion of the taxes they generated. But that project went from an assessed net value in that development area of about maybe $3 million for a 700-acre TIF district to generating, an assessed value of over, probably $70 million now for tax value. And the other beneficiary is not just the local governments. I know the city, county, they have to worry about their bottom line. The other benefit here are the school districts. I mean, the school districts will benefit significantly from new development. They're not participating, but they'll get benefits. The other taxing districts, even if they don't participate, will get a benefit. And then so the community at large grows. But the way these things work, you almost have to grow together. I mean, I hate to, it's part of my sales pitch. It's really critical because the tax rates are so low. If you don't grow together, it's going to be difficult to make it happen.
So, one of the things I look at when I'm looking at whether this is a good project for the county or not is I don't look at it as an elected official. I look at it as a county resident. And I've had a couple phone calls already since all this has been going on for a few months. And some of the concerns are, why would we be giving our future revenues to the TIF district and to basically well-off people already versus spending our revenue on our roads that are tore up and everything like that. Basically, the comment that was multiple times has been talked to me, the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer.
The reason that's important, and I represent the development side too, and developers have choices. I mean, people have choices where they're going to make investments, right? And so they make decisions a lot of times on whether they're going to make an investment in your community or somewhere else based upon, how supportive the community is. That's a practical situation. Sometimes, especially these downtown projects, they're tough to put together. They really are, because there's a lot of redevelopment, there's demolition, there's a lot of times environmental issues that they deal with. And so it's not that they're just trying to, it's not that they're getting richer, it's just the fact that these projects really do need some type of incentive to work. And so otherwise the return on investment for that developer doesn't make sense. Financially, it doesn't make sense, and they won't do the project.
So are these TIF districts, say we go ahead and contribute to this TIF district, is there state TIF money available for both of these districts?
No.
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I should let you finish. I apologize. The local development area TIF district for undeveloped land will simply not qualify for state participation. There's just now there could be another incentive that could be available if a tourism project would come in to that area. It could qualify for a sales tax reimbursement as a tourism project, but that's totally not TIF. But the downtown area, if you had a project of a certain size and scale, then it's conceivable and that could be eligible for state participation.
I just want to reiterate one other fact that I mentioned before. If over 20 years, if we decide, let's just say we agree to 75%, and something goes wrong where our occupational tax changes, all we have to do as a physical court is pass a ordinance saying our percentage is now changed. Or does that, or are we stuck to that percentage for 20 years with no way of getting out of that percentage?
When you approve the agreement, once projects are approved for the use of that increment, you are stuck until those projects are funded. I mean, you can't, for instance, you can't pledge something and then the city moves forward or whatever and makes an offer or issues debt, and then the city, county come back and say, no, we're not gonna pledge anymore. If you only pledge real estate taxes, you're not affecting your occupational taxes. And so in that regard, it doesn't, the TIF pledge doesn't even require you to keep a certain tax rate in place. So for instance, your tax rate might fluctuate based upon the increases in value. So if values increase, your rate may very well come down based upon the House Bill 44 calculation. So it doesn't limit that. It doesn't have any impact on your tax rate at all, other than what's within your discretion in that circumstance.
So basically, if we agreed to give up part of our occupational tax money,
Yeah.
and the law changes, the interlocal agreement that we have with the city changes or stuff like that, we're still stuck at that percentage.
You're stuck at the percentage, but the rate might be different because nothing in the documents. What I mean by that is if right now if for some reason your rate went down, you're only pledging what revenue is generated, right? So and based upon your rate in effect at that particular time. So if rates change, then the percentage doesn't change, but the amount of revenue might be different.
Well, if the rate changes, then that's lowers our revenue for the county, which we have to cut other areas to make up for that.
But normally, except in actual true law changes, any changes in your rate's going to be handled by the fiscal court, right? That's a decision you'll make.
Not what's going on occupational tax. It's a city-county agreement on that.
Okay.
So, which could change. So, okay. Thank you. Sorry for all the questions. I know.
One of the things you talked about is education, and as you see, even though Pulaski County, say right now we have an offering of 600 jobs or 1,500 jobs, okay? The question is, if property values are capped, so how do we help public education, whether it be private or public, grow if they don't get a chance to participate in the growth above that cap?
No, the cap is the baseline for your calculation of the increment only. So that, so for instance, if the baseline is $100 county revenues and the increment's 200, the increment's $100, but all that baseline goes to the county. It just means that these education schools and them, where we're coming to the fiscal court to pledge a portion of your increment to the TIF district, schools can't participate. So that schools will get the full benefit, whatever that new assessment is, they'll get the full benefit of that. They just legally cannot participate in the TIF district. So this will be, economic development is a real benefit to schools because they, a lot of times they can't participate and they can't give any of their revenues, but they usually get the full benefit.
Their revenue is based on property tax.
That's correct. So as the assessments increase, they'll get the full benefit of that.
Oh, one other question. Is it just property tax and occupational tax
The only
involved?
the only taxes that can be pledged by a local government, city, county, are real estate taxes and occupational taxes. It doesn't, if you have an insurance premium tax, it doesn't affect that. If you have tangible taxes, it doesn't affect transfer taxes. It doesn't affect any of those other type of revenue sources. So,
And the other taxing authorities that, if they wanted to, could contribute is library,
yeah,
extension,
extension and health.
and health,
Yeah,
the health department.
In some counties have other special districts. The special districts that may not participate are school districts and fire districts. You have a fire district.
Where do we stand at, what are the other taxing agencies saying?
Well, as of right now, the only other agency that I've talked to is the library. We've had some really good conversations about this potential opportunity. But basically, we're waiting to see if city and county will collaborate and coordinate their effort on this, because you all are the biggest entities that need to participate in order to possibly entice the other entities to be a part of it as well. But outside of city, county, and library, I have not discussed it with any of the others.
So if the county decided not to take part in this, the library would probably go the same way.
I can't say either way. I do know that they have a great interest in learning more. Like I said, we've had some really good discussions. on this particular issue. In particular, as you know, the library has a wonderful, wonderful entity downtown that is a part of this, not directly, but obviously the blighted areas around it. This would help address some of the issues that the library has had without question, but also will help increase their revenue over time.
I have one other question too, sorry, Steve.
You go ahead, Joan.
I'll probably forget it. I think I can go get it. I think I've forgotten it. So just Steve, ask yours, I'll try to remember it.
My question,
All the time.
my question is now that the city has created these TIF districts by ordinance, are we under a clock right now to participate or not? Is there a deadline for us to make our decision?
There's no absolute deadline, but it needs to be done, because what we would do before we sign the final documents, the local participation agreement has been approved by the city. It hasn't been signed, but, I would like to, within the next couple-month period, know whether or not the other districts are going to participate.
You mentioned that insurance premium was not, fire districts cannot. What about, like an ambulance tax, if there was an ambulance tax?
If there's an ambulance special district, yes, it could.
Okay.
Well, unless it's part.
We do have an ambulance taxing district right now. There is no tax, but the ambulance is a taxing district.
Is it under a fire district or not?
No, it
Okay,
is
well,
not.
then probably it could legally pledge. A lot of times you have, some of these special districts have such a low rate.
Correct.
You may not even worry about it. A lot of times, certain special districts, libraries in particular across the state, often have a larger, higher rate. And it makes it more attractive to ask those districts to participate there. Not that, it really varies by county, how those are done, but technically, if you have an ambulance taxing district and it's not part of a fire district, they could probably legally participate.
Any other questions for our guests? I appreciate you all coming and doing this. I mean, there have been a lot of questions and unknowns going around, and it's good to clear it up. And I will say, a lot of our comments were good questions. However, they should have been asked to City Council before they created the TIF, because it's already done. We're just, at this point, we are just trying to decide how much, if any, that we're going to contribute of the tax increment. We're not in control of whether the TIF happens or not. It's happened.
But as I said before, with our other revenue issues, we need to figure that out first, and I don't think that's something that's gonna be figured out within the next 2 months. We're gonna have to get together on this, and I would like for us to do a public forum on this where we get together and let the public come in, organize something at the center or something like that, to allow the public to come in and ask questions, because this is a big deal. I know out in my district, our roads are crumbling like crazy, and there's a lot of stuff we have to work out before we can make that decision on a TIF.
That's your decision, how you want to proceed. I will point out that as part of the creation of the TIF district, there was a public hearing required to be done, and that was conducted by city, and that was done in September. There was pretty good number of people that attended that particular meeting. So I just want to let you know there was a public process that was engaged in at that point.
Well, I would like to have one for the county process too, whether anybody shows up or not. But we need to keep it open to the public and let them make comments. And if you are out there watching this, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to call any of us magistrates and give your comments, because this is a big decision for us as magistrates. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Guys, I
gentlemen.
want to say grateful for your time. If anybody has any questions, concerns whatsoever, please let us know. We'll always make ourselves available. And as you mentioned, Mark, if any of you all as fiscal court members have questions and you need to forward those on to us at SPEDA or Mr. Parsons, please let us know. We'll jump in and help in any way. And by the way, while Rodney's sitting over there, can he put some new batteries in that clock to make sure it's running on time? Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Moving on then, I need to try to reappoint Babe Hughes to our cemetery board. His term is ending, and we want to reappoint that through January of '23. You all would allow that?
Second.
Or did we have, I didn't hear the motion. Jason, motion, and
Yes.
second by Wilson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we have I'm sorry, with the DLG Recreational Trails Program, we have a resolution where we've applied for the recreational trails. We have to have resolved to hold back a 20% of the proposed project cost. I need approval from fiscal court to do that.
Motion.
Motion by Turpin,
Second.
second by Wilson. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Are we looking at an 80-20 split on this? Or are we going to pay 80 and they pay 20, or what's the, and what's the plan for another trail when we have all these other issues with roads and stuff like that going on?
And thank you, Mark. The trails grant monies are a separate entity. And so we're applying for a walking trail at Firebrook Park, enhancing the walking trails at Shopful and White Lily, and a bridge at Pulaski County Park. And we applied for it last year and got awarded $225,000, which we get 80% of that, and most of our 20% is labor. So when we applied for the Land and Water grant, we missed the opportunity with this grant, which is an 80-20, because they forgot to do the resolution and asking permission to apply for the grant. Then after that last year, we applied for Land and Water. Well, come to find out, we only had at that time a 25-year lease agreement, and so they turned us down. So all we're doing now is asking permission to apply with the 80-20. 20% from us typically is labor.
Would be cool, yeah.
Yes,
Good will.
it's 80%, yes.
So we're not looking at any additional money out of our budget
No, sir.
for that? Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
No.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we have a list, I guess you all have got a copy of that, of vehicles that we'd like to request a surplus.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Wilson, second by Strunk. Any further discussion?
Will it be just sold to the auction
Would it be auction or would it be the gov deals?
Probably good deal.
That's where we've been doing a lot of our.
Put that in the motion, Ms. Alicia. Roberts?
On this 2019 Dodge Durango, would that be able to be used anywhere else? And like, would the sheriff department be interested in purchasing it, or?
That's a possibility, because it's still under warranty.
Because it's all set up as a,
Yes.
so I'm just thinking that maybe that's something we need to talk to the sheriff department, see if they'd be interested.
The thing is, if anyone is willing to purchase, it has been surplused, and you can, as long as it's been surplused, you can sell it to another governmental agency.
Outright, without going through an auction.
Outright, yes, correct.
I know the way the sheriff office does,
Yes,
that they're not, we don't
Yes.
buy their vehicles, they buy their own.
right, they do buy their own, and I don't know if they are interested in purchasing it, because it's not something that we can just donate.
Right, I'm not talking about donating.
Yeah.
But they may want to go with it. Now, I thought this was under a lease program. The Durango.
No,
It
it's
wasn't.
bought and paid for.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, it was bought with drug seizure, drug forfeiture money,
okay.
yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
or no?
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next in will be our department reports. I've got, from the road department, I've got your road work request. I didn't see any speed limit signs there that require a separate vote, unless I've missed one. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the road work request.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Strunk, second by Wilson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
No.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we have a request for 3,000 tons of rock.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Wilson, a second by Ranshaw. Any further discussion? All in favor?
No.
Any opposed? Then we have a request for 5,300 gallons of patch oil.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Wilson, second by Strunk. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And next, then we'll get into our emergency management. Okay, you here to speak with that, Jason?
Good morning. Aaron is in in-service training right now, so he asked me to step in. First thing I think you all have in your packets is the emergency power Generac service agreement. That's all the generators that's throughout the county at the different fire stations and on the repeater site. The base price hasn't changed since last year. I spoke to Frank, and he is recommended to take on the semi-annual option where they come in and do a secondary inspection as well as top off fluids and stuff. If the court wishes to do that, that would make it $10,900 for the service agreement.
Are you looking for
I lost my agreement. Here. Oh, and this.
you want us to vote on the purchase of this
Does
today?
that one
then?
have to be voted on?
Hey, Mark, looks like it.
That's it.
That's it, yes, sir.
Now, this is actually something that's for all the fire departments, right?
Right, that's
It's-
what's done
it's
every year.
This is something I'm kind of a little bit, don't understand. This is something that the fire fund pays?
Yeah, Stacy brought it to us, and I was trying to limit people in here. I just said, give it to Jason, he'll present it.
Okay, but normally the fire commission
Yes,
would
fire
be,
commission brought it to us.
would be presenting it, but we just, okay.
And you can see it on the service agreement, the name.
And this is not a new contract, it's just a renewal.
It's just the renewal service agreement.
Now, did we, I know, did the fire commission agree to the increase of the extra? Is that something we've done in the past?
Yes. When we met with Norman and Stacy and them, as they're approaching, looking at next year's budget, they gave those to us and asked permission for us to, for you all to.
So they agreed to the 8,500 and the 2,400?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I make a motion, we approve. I make a motion, we approve.
Motion by Ranshaw,
Second.
second by Turpin. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
The second thing on here is the Pro Air service agreement. That's the semi-annual maintenance and the air sample testing for all the breathing apparatus, air compressors. We have 8 of them throughout the county. Every one of them have to be tested every year to make sure that the air that we're putting in the SCBA's is good, clean air for the firefighters. There's no change on that from last year's amount either.
This is just a renewal contract too?
It's the
And
maintenance
it's
related.
another, is this another fire commission? Okay. And, so the price didn't change. We never did this in past years, so we're starting to, I don't think the court
And you're-
approved these agreements last year, so is this
Maybe
something?
right, But what we'll come to find out is anything that we're asking to go in a contract with,
Uh-huh.
it really needs to come in front of you all.
I appreciate that, so. But this is no change in prices, no difference in budgets or anything like that? Okay. I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Ranshaw,
Second.
second by Turpin. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And the last thing I'd like to ask the court to consider is for permission for 911 to advertise for bids for an upgrade to our radio consoles. What we used to talk to all the different agencies on. When we got the system, it was already kind of set up as end of life, so we can't find parts for the system anymore. We've got some of the fire departments is wanting to upgrade and add more radio positions, and with the existing system we got, we can't. We're maxed out for positions and for radios that we can actually talk to at this time. The other thing is with the city, whenever they went to their next edge system, their company that come in kind of got together and made it work, but it's not working the best because it's newer technology than what this radio system we're currently using is able to do. So we're looking to try to get something that would work better for everybody and be able to grow a little bit too, so.
Motion to advertise for bid.
Second.
Motion by Strunk, second by Wilson.
Question, is this already in our budget, current budget?
No.
Is there money available in our current budget for this?
Mark, and here's the thing. So the issue that we have is we're the communications center for the entire county, okay? We have Motorola Turbo is the sheriff's office and fire. The city of Somerset's Kenwood. Those two come into the radio console at 911, they don't work. And that's why you hear, well, you can't hear this or you can't hear that. That is an issue, a big problem. Now, when we met with Norman and Stacy and all of them in Steve's office, we introduced the problem. And they said they had monies budgeted to help with the communication.
Are we talking about the fire commission?
Yes, yeah.
So did they vote, did the fire commission vote to apply some of their money to this project?
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
they approved this already at the
Yeah,
fire?
they did, and I said, well, we need to really ask permission to bid to see what we're talking about. So that's just advertised to get bids, and then we'll come back to the table, because I think the city talked about contributing some money because of Kenwood.
That's one thing I was asking, because the city don't contribute anything to our 911 system. And now we're looking at spending more money on a system that we could really use some, if the city made changes in their system, I think they need to help us also fix our system to match theirs.
Yes. So that's just the point of, is asking permission to advertise. And so then we'll know what we're actually talking about, real dollars.
Okay. I just
mean,
wanted
the
to,
existing system we got now is not capable of buying any new parts for it all to try to make it work, so we're
How
gonna
many
have to
diff-
upgrade to something.
how many different companies are out there that can upgrade the system?
We'd have to reach out to them. I mean, I know there's at least 2 or 3 different companies right now that does consoles, so whenever we do the bids, we'll get that information in.
And how are you gonna advertise the bids? Is it just our local paper, or are you gonna do it statewide, or
We usually advertise in the local paper and we put it on our Facebook and website.
is there a state page we can put this information on too?
That I
For
don't know
bids?
as far as that part. We always, even for CAD and stuff, we've always just advertised locally, and you'd be amazed, a lot of these companies will monitor a lot of that stuff, so.
Okay.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
All right. That brings us then to our jail. We've got a couple representatives here. Mr. Dick, would you like to come forward and address the court?
Judge, I come this morning Anthony Jailer, he sends his best, but he had a meeting that came up kind of unexpected, and he was reaching in the bottom of the barrel, so he insisted that I come. But we're here to present, we've not had a chance to give you an idea of what's been going on, I guess, since all this corona and all this stuff's going on. But as you see, I passed out in front of you here in the month of January, the DOC had opened back up to where that we could start some work programs. And in the month of January, there was, in trash alone, there was 25,720 pounds picked up. That was comprised of probably 2 crews with anywhere from 4 to 12 inmates. That was 167.25 hours. Cleaned up 9 dumps, Mark. Picked up 44 tires, and something that's become a problem, but you're probably going to see more and more of keep up with this time is needles, Jason, that's thrown out in these dumps and places where they're pulling off. So that's something that they're going to continue to, I guess, keep account of this time. In addition to that, and this is all Judge pre-corona, or I guess the thing that probably about maybe March of last year, DOC said that we had to stop, you couldn't have these crews out working. So, you know, we had an unlimited supply of labor over there, so there was some things that went on, Mike. They painted the jail, the inmate housing pods, the seed pod out there where the workers was at. That work went on. There was some housekeeping as far as some floors that needed repair, some showers that did. That was all done. They did everything as far as completed floors and stripped and waxed everything over there. And here in the coming months, we're going to have you fellows over there and kind of let you see what has been going on over there. And as I mentioned, DOC has eased their restrictions where that there can be some folks go out to work now. It's still, you have to be out by themselves, and with trash pickups and with these dumps and things like that, it works that out where that they're not with, in with a group of people. Hopefully on down the road, I think they're going to be able to do some things with the city. I think there's some things, of course, coming on with mowing and that kind of stuff. So we just have to play that side by ear and see what happens. And I'll say this, Corona, as you fellas most know, likely has changed a lot of things. Martin, you've seen it with the court system. Now everything is done virtual. Those were put in place with some equipment that was there. And, so far it's not been, the jail's been able to absorb that cost, and that's something that probably we're going to see continue to add on. We're probably, one other thing is the number of inmates has went down. So we've had to, and when I say we, more Anthony and his command people over there, they have sat back and they've restructured some things. We're doing more with less. We've combined some things. But at the same token, things have went on as business as usual, and we've been able to keep on without coming to you all. And I'll say that I'm humbled that Anthony has presented, he's got in excess fees, a check for $44,255. That'll come back to fiscal court and the taxpaying men and women of this county. And again, that's been through his leadership and the leadership over there of combining some things, doing some things that maybe were repetitive. And I think you're going to see that'll continue, And with that, if there's any questions for me, I'll try to take those. And then Miss Casey Coffey. Casey works for Southern Health Partners. She's the director of nursing over there, I guess you could say. She has some other nurses over there, and she's going to give you some facts and figures on what this corona thing has done and the way we've kind of handled that over there. I know there's been some questions maybe that you've been asked or something, but you know, we've tried every way in the world we can to keep it down, and so far, we've done a decent job of it.
Is the staff all back to work now, Rod, or?
As far as there's maybe one that's not, but for the most part, yes, sir.
Good deal.
We appreciate you guys getting back out there picking up trash and all that. I remember talking to Anthony about that, and he told me about what you guys have been picked up, and that mainly that was just on 27, and 914, right?
Yeah, and I think maybe that, you know, there's some, like I said, of course, the dumps, that's a big thing, you
Yeah.
know, and I think they've been out maybe running.
Yeah, I've
around
requested
80
them
just a little
several
bit there or
times.
something, But, you
they've
know,
really helped
not
out.
got widespread yet, but I'll assure you it's in the works.
It's just something we need to know, remember as citizens of the county, is that you guys can't go out there and pick up every piece of paper along the side of a road. It's just impossible for the county to maintain and clean up every road in the county. So my suggestion is please take the time to drive through a gas station and throw your trash in a can versus throwing it out the window or something like that. If you're going over to the dump, you know, tarp your cargo off before you dump it or anything like that. To bring down, the less trash on the roads, the more roads we can get clean. Because they don't have to spend so much time on each road, so. I thank you for what you guys are doing. I think the recycling center, I think, has a crew that goes out too, so I thank them also. It is probably one of the number one calls I get is trash on the road. And you know, we can only do so much as a county.
Well, you know, it's, I get the easy part. I get to tell you about all the work everybody else has done. But I can tell you that with Anthony, it's a priority with him. I can tell you Robbie Cox works at it, you know, and those deputies that do that, they work at that hard. And, you know, again, you know, it's not only them, but you've got those inmates out there that are doing it. And it's a good project for everybody concerned.
It is, and like, as I was saying, if we all just do our own part, instead of throwing our trash out the window or letting it fly out the back of our trucks, then they'll make it easier on you and you can cover more area.
All right. Casey?
Good morning.
Morning.
Some quick numbers. First off, we have been COVID-free since December. We've swabbed approximately 200 inmates and 75 first responders and county employees. We now have the rapid swabs that make that a lot easier. We can screen our inmates as they come in, and if suspected exposure or anything, we can do a rapid swab and have results back in 15 minutes. So, but we have been COVID-free since December.
Awesome.
And you know, one of the things that in doing this, you know, there's been a couple of other counties around here that have basically had to cease operation. They had to move, and we've tried to be a good neighbor. We've absorbed some of that. And you know, with the efforts of Casey and Dr. Baker, you know, they've kept this thing down, and we've done, like I said, we tried to do our part, and so far, knock on wood, you know, it's working out. We've got. I think they come over there, once a week and spray go through the whole jail over there, kind of spraying it. And if there's any question, if somebody they think maybe is, she does a good job, Casey does, with moving those out and quarantining those folks. I mean, I told somebody the other day, Mike, that, you know, here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. There's 3 sets of guidelines we have to go by over there. You've got our local health department. They have a set of guidelines. They say this is what we'd like for you to do. You have CDC. Then you also have DOC. Well, they trump basically everybody. And, you know, it's a juggling act of some sorts, but you've got to try to strike that happy medium with all of them. And so far, I think we have. And
We've actually only had 27 positive inmates this entire time, so.
That's awesome. I know there's a couple jails had to shut plumb down because they had so many, yeah.
Are the officers now in the process of getting, are they part of the first responder vaccination program?
they were, some have already went and got both shots. The group I was in, I was talking to, I think mine's in maybe a couple more weeks or something, but that's been, that's been offered, and there've been several that's took advantage of it.
Yeah.
There has. And, you know, this rapid testing thing, it was, I think that was a joint effort with Wayne County and Pulaski County going together on that, and I think I'm right on that, right?
They started that, yes.
And, you know, it's been a good thing for us, because before, there was like, what, a 3-day turnaround time or something like that from the time you got swabbed to where you knew it. So you had that, you didn't know, you know, you had to err on the side of caution with pulling those people out and quarantining them. So now you've got that test over there that it's the 15-minute deal, so it just makes it a whole lot better on both sides. With that, is there any comment or question?
Appreciate everything y'all are doing, and
Martin, the jailer wanted me to be sure to tell you that he appreciated you. I know he's been dealing with you the last little bit, and he appreciated that, and I certainly appreciate that, your friendship. With that, Judge, I'd like to keep this check, but I guess I better give it to you all.
well, I guess it's gonna go to Joan, right, or did it?
Give it to him, you can give it to him.
All right.
I'll keep it.
There you go.
Not much controversy.
Would you let the employees know we really appreciate them
I
and what
will.
they did, and sorry they had to go through all this COVID stuff, but, you know, they work hard too, and they need to be appreciated too, so.
Well, I'll certainly do that, and you know, anytime y'all get a chance, there's some good people there. And they've got a tough job, Jim. I'll assure you they have. And any time that you get a chance to sit down and talk with one of them, and I would encourage you to, because it means a lot for them. They sometimes feel like that they're treated as a second-class citizen, and you know, there's no cause in that.
Sure.
But with that, if there's anything I can do, you got my phone number, call me, and with that.
I've got a question here, Rod. I
Yes,
don't know if
sir.
you can tell me, what about Wiles, Randy Wiles?
I'm
Is
glad
he-
you
is
mentioned
he,
that. Randy is still in the hospital, and I've not heard in the last couple of days, but you know,
I heard he was getting better.
I think so. Maybe there was a little bit of improvement, but we certainly need to continue to remember him and his family.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
He's a good guy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, brings us into our treasurer. We've got a few items from Joan.
Yeah, the first item I have would be the February bill list.
I'll receive a copy of that. It would be your pleasure.
Motion?
Second.
A motion by Turpin, a second by Wilson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The second item I have is the bank reconciliation for the month of January.
Received your copy of your bank reconciliation. What would be your pleasure with that?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Wilson, a second by Ranshaw. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The third item I have are fund transfers, and please change the 1 to a 2, because obviously I missed that part of it, or I'm still living in January. Most of these are for the occupational tax monies and all from general. The road fund, 300,000, 911 fund, 353,375, jail fund, 201,563, and then not occupational tax money, just to the road fund from general fund for 200,000.
Motion.
Second. A motion by Ranshaw and a second by Strunk. Any further discussion? All in favor? In favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
The last item of actual business I have is, I'd mentioned to you all a few months ago that our software was in need of an upgrade, or we were in need of getting going to a new software company. When I was doing the research on that, I found that the two I was looking at was to upgrade our existing software and going to a new company. It was going to be just as cost effective to stay with our current software company. We're just going to an upgrade. And actually, as far as our yearly maintenance, it will be cheaper. The only thing is up front with the upgrade, we will have some training costs. So, but actually, it will be cheaper in the long run. Plus, we don't have to reinvent the wheel and teach an old dog new tricks and a whole new software. So, what I'm asking is that you give permission for the judge to sign the new contract and order detail for the upgrade with Springbrook software.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Wilson and second by Ranshaw. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Nah.
Any opposed?
That's all I have for the most part. One other thing I would like to say is that during the month of February, they do have budget workshops, as we always do. It's 3 training hours for those of you who participate in the training program, and they're all virtual this year. If you need any information on how to get signed up, just let me know. That's all I have. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, with no further business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just have one thing. I'd just like to thank our road department who's been out there working tirelessly hours here, extra hours over the past month or so to keep our roads in good condition in the bad weather. Looks like we got another storm or two coming in this week. So just want to say be safe and stay healthy, everybody.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Ranshaw.
Second.
Second by Turpin.
I was waiting on Wilson.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I kept looking at Wilson and
Opposed? All right, thank you all.
All looking at